6 now life practices. Work hard. Colossians 3:22 through 25. Slaves, obey your masters on earth in everything they tell you. Don't just obey when they're watching as people pleasers. Instead, obey wholeheartedly, fearing the Lord. Do everything you do from the heart as something you are doing for the Lord and not for people. You know that you will receive an inheritance as a reward. You serve Christ, the Lord. Also, evildoers will receive compensation for the evil actions they do. There is no discrimination. Christians like to quote verse 23 to encourage and exhort each other to work hard in everything we do, as if we're directly working for Jesus. And that's a really good way to look at it. I want to cast the passage in its context to flesh it out further. Paul wasn't broadly addressing all people. He was explicitly addressing slaves who were part of the household staff. The temptation was to work hard when the master was around, but then slack off a bit. Maybe drink a little bit and have a little fun. Take advantage of your position when the master's not around. Jesus actually talked about this type of servant in Matthew 24:45 through 51. He said this, "Happy are the servants who the master finds performing their duties when he returns. Indeed, he will put them in charge of all his things. But suppose the evil servants should say to themselves, 'My master won't come home until later.' And consider if he began to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with drunks. The master of those servants will come on a day when they're not expecting him, at a time they couldn't predict. He will cut them into pieces and put them in the place with hypocrites. The people there will be weeping and grinding their teeth." It's not hard to see where Jesus and Paul were going with this. Paul wanted us to look at those that we serve in the world and serve them well as if we were serving God. In Jesus' parable, the master actually is God. The scary part is actually the compensation, because for Paul, if you don't serve people as if they were God, then it's an evil act, and the evil act has a just reward. For Jesus, it's kind of the same. If you don't work as God has commanded you to work, then you're judged with an eternal judgment. Now, most Christians are pretty good at staying away from the big obvious sins. We're not staggering around the streets drunk, hanging out at strip clubs, picking up prostitutes, robbing liquor stores, or anything like that. We tend to be pretty decent most of the time. But notice neither Paul or Jesus were concerned in these passages about what you don't do. Certainly other places. But here, they're more concerned about what you do. In other words, passivity in the Christian life isn't really Christian at all. You call yourself a Christian. Well, what are you doing? Who are you serving? For the slave or the servant, it's obvious what to do. If it's your job or responsibility to serve somebody else, this has really immediate implications for how you live day to day. If you go to a job, you have a responsibility to serve your boss as if they were the Lord Jesus themselves. And that's kind of impossible to think about, but it's the reality of what's being taught. And if you have your own business, you still have a responsibility, let's say to your clients or to others, maybe vendors, and you should serve them as if they were the Lord. Maybe this is for kids, you have parents and you have a responsibility to those parents. And I know your parents aren't perfect, but you should still serve them as you were serving the Lord Jesus. Parents actually likewise have a responsibility to their kids to serve them, and therefore to serve them as they would serve the Lord. Husbands and wives have a responsibility to others and should serve each other as they would the Lord. Everyone is serving people in some capacity. I mean, that's really the reality of this passage is, probably in multiple capacities, we're serving people. Nobody's really off the hook. And in that sense, we're all kind of the slave or the servant. You have a responsibility to do well in that work, to serve as you would serve the Lord. Getting lazy at work or at home or wherever, it's to bring judgment upon yourself. And Paul says that's what evil people actually do in order to get a just reward. So work hard as though you were serving the Lord, because you really do serve Jesus when you serve people. We should work hard in life as if everything we do is really a direct command from God. He created us for work. That's the reality of Adam in the garden. He was created to work the ground, to build a wonderful worldwide paradise for God and his people. And so we naturally find value and purpose for the now life in the work that we do. So seek that value, seek that purpose in your work, but just make sure Whatever it is, make sure that you're working as if you're working for the Lord, because the work that you do, it is indeed Christ's work.